shirt mean?
Oh, they suck. They're the worst. They're the problem with this country.
What can we do to bridge the divide in the country?
Bridge the divide in the country? I don't know. Close the borders. Yeah.
With the divide between Americans, what can we do to bridge the divide between Americans?
I don't know. You want to help me out here?
Probably talk to each other more. Listen to each other.
Less name calling?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And the shirt says?
Liberals suck.
Is bipartisanship like even possible when the other side is being this hostile?
But what really concerns me, though, is the left and the right. We see things so differently. We're so far apart. It's hard to even have bipartisanship. As a matter of fact, we don't have bipartisanship. And I say this all the time. People say, well, can't you work with Democrats in Washington? And I go, hell no. I can't work with Democrats in Washington.
These other people think that the Democrats are the enemy and don't deserve to live. That's not normal.
The Constitution has been stomped under the feet.
Yep.
It's written according to the Bible. Like you said, we've got to get praying for the country. And we got to be, people got to be tried for treason.
And death penalty.
Well, I think we're ending on a right note.
We're so used to, Marjorie Taylor Greene talking like this that I make this mistake too, that we think that it's like, oh, it's just, a few people. Like, no, a lot of people think like this, okay? And honestly, I've been doing this for a few years. I'm finding it hard to make comedy anymore because some of it just isn't funny. Like, they're delusional. We all know that they make things up in their head and they're mad about something, some hypothetical they made up in their head. But they're not just mad about it. Like, they want violent revolution over something they made up in their head, over, a conspiracy theory.
It was a time when we used to meet evil on the battlefield, and guess what we did to it? We killed it. We didn't quibble about it. We didn't argue about it. We didn't fight about it. We killed it. Get mad at me if you want to. Some folks need killing. It's time for somebody to say it. It's not a matter of vengeance. It's not a matter of being mean or spiteful. It's a matter of necessity.
I am kind of worried about, I'm worried about the election because Biden's behind in the polls. And however, if you go to any rally, it's, they're talking about, let's make this too big to rig. And the whole, the election was stolen thing has become mainstream at this point. It was fringe enough, right? Like there was, around the time of the election, enough people were like, they didn't want to admit maybe that they, were cuckoo about that. But, Elon Musk, with buying Twitter and a lot of other places, they've been given a safe space to talk about these nonsense election fraud claims. Listen, I get it. If the election actually had been stolen, you should be upset about that. But it wasn't. It absolutely clearly wasn't. I was alive when George W. Bush stole the election from Gore, and I was really upset about that. It never happened, and people should stop saying that because, people would be right to be upset about that. But they shouldn't be right to be upset about that because it didn't happen. But you get what I'm saying. Like, that's a big thing to claim. Like, people will get upset. They'll want to, your average person would want to, take up arms and do violent revolution over that.
I went to a dinner the other day, Easter Sunday. This culprit said no. He voted Democrat because he was happy with what he got. And I said to myself, how can you be happy with what you got when people turn around and stab you in the back? As far as I care, the Democratic Party should all be charged with treason, along with the President of the United States, and they ought to be hung by a rope as hard as they can hang him.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband violently assaulted in their San Francisco home early this morning. We are learning new details by the minute about this violent assault. Two sources briefed on the attack, telling NBC News the weapon used in the assault was, in fact, a hammer.
The day after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, Schiffer took to Trump's social media network, Truth Social it's called, and he posted a tirade calling for violence. I'm not going to repeat the whole thing here because it doesn't deserve to be amplified, but it did include things like, quote, "We must not tolerate this one," and calling for people to arm themselves and be ready for combat.
My biggest issue with the Democratic Party is counter messaging. They're very late to counter message, and I hear about things first, unfortunately. So I hear about all these conspiracy theories and these disinformation, things that are getting pumped out, and there's no real outlets, and they don't. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't have proper outlets to dismantle all this disinformation that's out there, right? Let me see. So Biden, with the insulin, okay, capping the cost of insulin. Letting the government negotiate drug prices saves a lot of money, saves like hundreds of billions of dollars. However, it's an amazing thing. That's amazing. Thank you, Joe Biden. However, MAGA flipped that around, and now all of them are talking about how Joe Biden cut $300 billion from Medicare, which is a bold-faced lie. And it's complete disinformation. Republicans want to cut Medicare. It is like the Goebbels accuse them of what you're doing thing. And there's no pushback on it. There's no outlet for, there's no mechanism for them to, deal with this disinformation which is spewed on a daily basis. And so, again, is bipartisanship possible with that kind of landscape?
In fairness, sir, Donald Trump isn't saying let's take us back to the 70s, is it?
He's not saying let's take us back to the 70s. He's saying we have to be together as a country.
But he is arguably as divisive a leader as we've ever had in our lifetime.
How is he so divisive?
Look at how polarized we are as a nation on politics now.
And that's because of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party has absolutely destroyed this country under the laws that they passed.
Like which laws?
Like the civil rights laws that passed. They destroyed the country because you have poor people that stayed poor.
You saw this a lot with the Republicans rejecting bipartisanship when Obama was elected. The whole, and that started off light where they said, all right, nothing will get passed because, we're on the brink of extinction here and we need a win, right? We need to be known. So they sort of became the party of no, basically. They had no real platform. It was just the party of no during Obama's term. And, that was, and during Trump, you had Democrats willing to reach across the aisle for things, as long as they get what they want. However, because they don't have the same thing where they can't do what Marjorie Taylor Greene does, where she does absolutely nothing for her district, but is championed as a hero because she stood against the corruption. You've seen it ramped up to the point now where, the bipartisan border bill that was killed. And it was because they're we don't want to hand the ball to the Democrats here. We want to fix it when we get in power, right? And we want to run this country into the ground so that, we have something to run on. You hear about all, so that's why all these immigrants, they come to the cities and and there's no infrastructure to deal with them because the Republicans don't want an infrastructure to deal with it. And, I just posted a video, you should go look at it, where I showed the NYPD testimony as how crime has gone down in all the major cities, the big liberal cities, because they got guns off the street, the guns that were coming from the red states. Like, there are so many ways in which the Republican Party has tried to just literally just sabotage this country and have it just burn itself to the ground by not passing legislation. You know, instead of putting immigrants where, you know, there's actual infrastructure, they're like, no, put them in the cities where there's no infrastructure. You know, also with, you know, the guns, let's have no gun laws where we are. And then all of those guns go to what? Chicago, New York, and, you know, other places. And the biggest critique that you get right now from progressives is that Democrats aren't hitting back hard enough. They're not playing, you know, the MAGA is playing dirty, and they're not, you know, getting their hands wet, getting their hands dirty, wrestling with the, you know, Republicans, wrestling with MAGA, and that they're, you know, doing too much respectability politics. This is true to some extent. I mean, I personally wish that they had just expanded the Supreme Court at this point, right? I'd love, I mean, the MAGA's been accusing them of wanting to do this for years. To be funny, I actually wish the Democrats did literally half the things that the Republicans accused them of. They accused them of being like socialist, communist, open borders, you know, defunding the police. They accused them of, you know, helping out, you know, Hamas. I don't want them to help out Hamas, but you know what I mean. You know, like, I swear, like, when I listen to Republicans talk about the Democrats, I was like, I wish half of what you said was true. The other half, you made that up. But the other, yeah. So yeah, the Democrats, so Democratic Party, go and be the party that the Republicans think you are. I mean, they're going to call you communist anyway. So just go, like, do some, you know, communism. Come on. Like, everyone's just going to call it communism no matter what you do. So just do some communism. Please.